You probably know that landscape architects work with plants. We do and we love it, but we use them in really interesting ways that you may not have realized. And we do so much more than pick out plants. In this podcast series, we invite professionals in our field to talk about what excites them about the profession of landscape architecture and the wide variety of things they do. We will explore the many ways that landscape architects positively impact the world. Landscape architecture is a diverse practice that shapes the way we experience and move through our cities and communities, guides our responses to climate and environmental changes, brings forward our public histories, and so much more. We at the University of Colorado Denver Department of Landscape Architecture are excited that you are interested in our field. Please join us as we discover what many people don't know about landscape architecture.
We are joined today by Leanne Vielehr. She is a principal landscape architect at Norris Design and teaches the Plants and Design course here at the University of Colorado Denver in the College of Architecture and Planning. Her diverse design experience spans small residential landscapes to large master plan communities, including creating conceptual designs and construction documents for residential, commercial, recreational, and hospitality projects. Hi, Leanne. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Well, let's jump right into it. We've got a first question here. What do you love most about plants and designing with plants?
Oh gosh, that's such a broad question, and I think plants plants come in so many shapes and sizes and colors, and they're constantly changing. And so I think that's what I love about designing with plants. Each plant, changes throughout the year as it grows or as it responds to the seasons in terms of flowers or fall color. And so it's a unusual design medium because it's changing. But I think that's also why it can also be challenging because it's this living organism that kind of takes on its own. You plant it and you put it in the ground, and then you have less control over what happens. And so um, there's so many factors that go into how a landscape evolves, and it looks very different from the day you install it to 15 or 30 years from now. It's constantly changing. And so I think that's what's really fun and unique about designing with plants and designing with something that is a living thing.
Absolutely. It must be hard to figure out what plants will withstand the test of time versus which ones that are just pretty and maybe will only last the season.
There's definitely some tried and trues. You see things used a lot in the commercial landscapes, like the feather reed grass or the Stella de Oro daylily, and it's because they are tried and true, and um, they are they're arguably overused, but they're overused for a reason because they're reliable and they will survive.
So, in your class that you teach plants and design, what would you tell your students is your favorite plant and why would that be a good choice?
Gosh, again, it's almost like choosing a favorite child or choosing, there's so many. I think it's really hard to say like one, only one favorite. I think there's so many different plants that serve different functions. Aesthetically, I definitely have things that I gravitate towards. I grew up in Reno, Nevada in a, arid kind of desert environment around rabbit brush and yucca. And so I think I tend to gravitate towards things that look lush and tropical because it's the opposite of what I was around when I was younger. I really love things that have your like non-typical green leaf. Like there's so, you think of a shrub or a tree, and you automatically, I think of green leaves with plants. And so I think my favorite plants have like a green and white variegated leaf, like the ivory halo dogwood is one of my favorites, or anything that has like a really dark purple leaf. Like there's a nine bark that has a dark leaf, or crimson century maple is also like I love the kind of unexpected things that add a little bit more color and dimension than your typical leaf. And I think plants and design is less about the specific plant species and more about how different plants can serve different forms and functions to achieve our design goals. There's rarely only one plant that is the right choice. And so I might suggest to our students, a handful of plants that could serve the same purpose in or achieve their design goal, and then I let them choose kind of what look they're going for. I think my favorites always end up kind of getting intertwined into some of those recommendations, but ultimately it's about the design goals and the functions that need to serve, and then a personal choice as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to approach it. Again, kind of leads into the next question. Have you been to a landscape that you chose plants for after it was established? And what was it like to see the plants you picked out working in the space?
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to see many of my landscape designs over the years. I've done both residential work as well as commercial work, and so I've seen my designs in all kind of scales and sizes, which has been really, really cool and rewarding. And it's also, I think, such a good way to learn and to become a better designer is to see your designs and figure out what worked and maybe what didn't. But like I mentioned, because it's not a permanent physical structure like a building or a road that we're designing, it's this thing that becomes out of our control. And so um sometimes your designs will be exactly as you envisioned and exactly as you designed them. And then other times they'll be very different. Like there were some plant material that died or it was removed and not replaced. Um, or maybe a plant was damaged along the way. In Colorado, we have heavy snows and other things that can damage our, trees and shrubs, or maintenance is an interesting impactor, I guess, for lack of a better word. Pruning can be done correctly or incorrectly, and you can misshapen a plant. And so there was one that I had designed that all the plant material was designed to kind of grow together and become more of a hedge so that you didn't see the individual plants. It was intended to be kind of more of this mass of greenery. And the maintenance crew for this particular business went in and pruned them all like little gumdrops. And so it was not what it was intended. Um, so things like that happen a lot. There's a lot that is completely out of your control once it goes in the ground, for better or worse.
All right, that leads us to our last question. Why would you suggest landscape architecture as a profession for someone?
Oh gosh, it's landscape architecture is so diverse. It's a very creative profession that really goes far beyond the plants we design with. We're creating spaces, outdoor spaces that are impacting people's experience through both kind of functional and aesthetic design. Obviously, we design something to look good and to be pretty, but it also needs to function for the people who are using the spaces. Um, and so it really ranges from, like I mentioned, like a small yard, like somebody could say, hey, I want to add some curb appeal to my front yard, or I have this problem spot. And so it could be a really small design that you're helping someone with, or, we design up to, large master plan communities where we're designing the park spaces that are within those communities. We're designing all of the streetscapes and the common area landscapes and the entryways. And a lot of times we get to help design the monuments, that the signage and things that especially when I was in school, never thought that I would be, touching some of those elements. And so there's such a wide variety. And then from really formal spaces like plazas and things that are a lot of times more hardscape than it is plant material, to then natural spaces like waterways or habitat creations or pollinator gardens. And so I feel like it's never a dull moment, and every project provides a different kind of opportunity and a different set of design challenges. And so you can get involved in whatever kind of small or large aspect kind of calls you. And I think landscape architecture attracts a lot of people who want a creative outlet, but also want to impact people's everyday lives too. So it's a unique profession in that way.
Definitely takes two sides of the brain to kind of attack these kind of projects.
For sure.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Leanne. It was great talking with you.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for listening to our podcast, Something Else About Landscape Architecture. The Department of Landscape Architecture at the University of Colorado, Denver offers multiple paths of study to fit your career aspirations. We invite you to visit our website, ucdenver.edu/landscape, or follow us on Instagram at CUDenver Landscape Arch.